to the Blane Laramie Podcast, starring Blane Laramie, produced by Blane Laramie, special guest star. Enough of that. Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the, I guess, first installment of the Blane Laramie podcast. I did do a podcast a couple years ago that I really enjoyed doing, but due to some internal politics involving a couple people who I was potentially supposed to be working with, that kind of fell apart, much like everything they had going on at the time. So here I am trying again. Now, the reason why I'm doing a podcast, besides the fact that I, for some reason, find it necessary for you to listen to me right now, is basically from a bit of advice I got from Brody Stevens. The comedian Brody Stevens. He performed at the Hong Kong Inn, downtown Ventura. By the way, today's date is it's Wednesday, June 10th. It's about 11:05. It's 69 degrees Fahrenheit here in beautiful Ventura, California. It's a little overcast. Actually, my son's graduating from elementary school. My daughter's graduating from junior high tomorrow. So I'm an old man. I'll have a kid in high school and a kid in junior high. Anyway, so Brody is a comedian who I'm rather fond of. My first introduction to him was fairly recent. It was during last year's the 2014 Oddball Festival. I had bought tickets for it and I was really excited about it. So I'd been following the news. And Bill Burr happened to, or the news about the Oddball, I should say. Bill Burr happened to be on Kevin and Bean on K Rock, which I like to listen to. They're very stand-up comedian friendly, or at least they seem to be, in my opinion. And he had mentioned how funny Brody was. He'd actually taken a minute out of his time in his interview to talk about how funny Brody was, and he was a very good host. So, of course, me being a fan of Bill Burr's, I thought, well, okay. I mean, that's actually one of the main reasons I was going to Oddball was to see Bill Burr and Louis C.K. And Aziz Ansari and Jim Gaffigan, of course. I saw Grant Cotter there. This was the first time I'd seen Grant Cotter. He was very funny. You're definitely going to want to check him out. He was very, very funny. So I felt like Brody was established enough to take his advice, after the show he hung out and talked to the local comedians. There was probably about 12 of us surrounding him, just basically lined up to suck his dick. And one piece of advice that he gave us that really stuck with me was, get a podcast going. It's going to be easier for you to establish your own niche, your own, following, for lack of a better way to put it, your own crowd, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to establish my own crowd. Hopefully, and build an audience, build a Blane Laramie audience. Hopefully I can do that. And first and foremost, thank you to everyone that has come out to see me. Thank you so very much. I mean, from the very beginning, when I was doing open mics at the Keynote, when I was doing, let me rephrase that. When I was only doing open mics at the Keynote and only doing mics at the Ventura Harbor Comedy Club, and then I just started doing the Glory Hole. I at the very beginning, from the very first time I ever touched an open mic, I was begging people to come out and see me, and nobody really came out to see me for the longest time. A couple people, smitterings of people would come out. I remember my friends John and Charlie Wisey came out. That was just a fantastic surprise because Johnny lives up north. And Charlie's just running around doing all kinds of fun stuff, checking out bands all the time and stuff. So I don't get to see them very often. So to see both of them and have them come out and see me do 3 horrible minutes of comedy, that was really awesome. And of course to Terrence, who comes out and supports, and Leo always supports. And Brienne is always out. That's the young lady who's been letting me see her naked lately. I'm very fond of her, so it's always nice to have her out there. But anyway. That's basically it. I'm here trying to build an audience. We can chat about things. Feel free to hit me up on my email at blanelaramiecomedian@gmail.com. That's Blane, Blane, Laramie, Laramie, Comedian, Comedian. And that's going to be all one word, Blane Laramie Comedian at gmail.com. And don't put an I in my name, because there's not an I in my name. I know if anybody actually took the time to write down my name, there's a good chance you added an I, even though I just spelled it without an I. It's one of my, as I hate to say, pet peeves, because if it's a peeve, why would you keep it as a pet? But it's basically something I have volunteered to get annoyed by. So I've seen my name. My name was spelled blame the other day. I saw that on the advertisement for a show at the Comedy Store. I didn't mind that as much. Ironically, I was like blame. Like that's close. Blame. Like that's ironically to me, being called a blame isn't as bad as you spelling my name Blane with an I. When you spell my name Blane with an I, it just pisses me off so much for some odd reason. Because let's face it, my name is rather effeminate when you really come down to it. And I know people, when I say that, people like sometimes they go like, "Oh no," but it is. You know, like I was born in 1976, so I grew up during the 80s, where any Blane in like on the TV or in the movies. On the TV, I sound like such an old man. On any TV shows, anybody named Blane was either a homosexual and or was a spoiled rich kid. So that's going to be really hard I mean, some sort of hybrid asshole rich kid or some sort of effeminate kid. Parents' wealth didn't seem to really matter. If he was effeminate, he could be poor or rich, as long as he was an effeminate Blane. But it's a rather effeminate name. Obviously, I'm a very manly man. I mean, you've seen my beard, so I'm not worried in that department. But yeah, for some odd reason, growing up with that name, I was like, you gotta at least spell it right. Like, please spell my name right. I don't know. What are you gonna do? I guess it'd be like having the name like Fag, but it's Phag. Like if your name was Fag, and someone's like, "Oh, Fag," and then they were Fag. You're like, "No, it's Phag." Okay, dude, that's fucked up. And they're like, "Is that Phucked up?" Okay, yeah. So I'm trying to get people to come to my shows, and then I do shit like that. What are you gonna do? All right. So I don't know. How are you guys? My daughter's gonna be in high school next year. My son's gonna be in junior high. I think I'm gonna have a harder time dealing with it than they are. They're both pretty. My daughter, is very typical 13-year-old girl. She's ruthless. I think like special forces or like the CIA should really start recruiting 13-year-old girls, because they would probably like slice. It didn't even matter if it was an insurgent. It just like get somebody to annoy them. And be like, hey, you have permission to kill them, and I mean that would. I mean, America would win the quote unquote war on terror in about a week. Oh, what are you gonna do? I'm glad heavy metal isn't more popular. Because I mean, think about it. Like, if it was more, I mean, remember what the '80s and the early '90s gave us? Like anything that's popular, like people are gonna find a way to water down and just really turn into something that's gonna appeal to the lowest common denominator and basically just sell mass units. So I'm really glad it's not. Plus, could you imagine like turning on the radio and like I don't know, like I don't know. I don't think death metal would sound good on the radio. Like I couldn't imagine like listening to like DSI like Kill the Christian, and then like listening to like a commercial for a tire store, and like a commercial for male enhancement, and then like, oh hey, and here's some infected by obituary, or butchered at birth. I know you get the point. I'm sure there's a lot of metal fans out there. Speaking of metal, hey, who here hates Metallica now? I mean, who here has since like 1991? Hopefully, I'm so hip that a lot of you weren't even born in 1991. Hopefully, a lot of you are still in high school and young, or not younger, but young enough to not even remember 1991. Hopefully, I'm that cool, but I highly doubt that. But I'd like to go on record as saying since 1991, I've hated Metallica. And when I offer my case, the reason why I hate Metallica is mostly because of the Black Album and every album since. I know they tried on Death Magnetic, but that was too little too late. You know what I'm saying? That's like digging up a body and then performing CPR at this point. And I gotta be honest, Death Magnetic really wasn't that good. It wasn't bad. It was one of their better albums since 1991, but not that great. But my problem with Metallica is they pulled a Metallica, as it's been known to be called. They were the heavy metal band. Okay, Dave Mustaine cried himself to sleep every night because he got kicked out of Metallica. Okay, he spent his entire life trying to catch up to Metallica. They were it. Okay, Slayer wishes they were Metallica. Okay, that's a bad example. That's a bad example. When he dragged out on the street and beat for speaking like that. Okay, but Slayer would have liked to have pulled the same numbers as Metallica. Okay, that's better. That's a much better way to put it. They're a very famous, very established, and very financially wealthy heavy metal band. In 1988, they had a Billboard Top 20 single, which I don't think any heavy metal band had done before that with one. Right? I mean, so they were established. They were doing great. And then 1991 comes around. The Black Album comes out. And it's all this like clean picking and slower tempo. Just like, bleh. And, and when I mention that to a lot of my friends who like that album, they go, well, like, if you think about it, there was always this transition into a lot of that clean picking and a lot of that, slower stuff. I mean, all the way back to like, even like a Kill 'Em All, but especially on Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning, there's a lot of clean picking. There's a lot of acoustic intros and stuff, and a lot of the acoustic bridges and what have you. Please don't send me emails correcting these terminologies. I'm sure I'm wrong, but and I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And those were freaking awesome. But what were those? Those were intros and bridges, right? I mean, that's like a rapper making an entire album of the first 45 minutes of each song, because we all know rappers have to talk about who they are, who they're with, what they're worth, and what kind of females they like for the first 45 minutes of every song. So just imagine an entire album of 11 songs of like, yeah, we in the building, yeah, popping bottles, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Motherfucking Leo Martinez in the building, you heard? Yeah. 805 Comedy Death Squad up in this bitch. Yeah. I'm not done yet, dude. That's just the intro to the album full of intros, okay? Right? That's what Metallica did. That's what they did to us. They gave us an entire album of, yeah, Exit Light, Internight, Snow White. You heard? So that's why I both love and hate Metallica. I mean, Metallica gave us Kill 'Em All. They gave us Injustice for All. They gave us Ride the Lightning, right? And they're one hell of a fucking cover band. Did you know this? They are an amazing cover band. I think 100 years from now, people are going to look back at Metallica and go like, you know what? That was a good cover band. They are an amazing cover band, right? I mean, they killed Cliff Burton. Then they killed heavy metal. I don't know, man. I don't know. I always wonder, like, if I saw Lars Ulrich crossing the street, like if he was walking and crossing the crosswalk and there's nobody around, would I just floor it? Probably not, because actually I have a very old Accord and it's a 4-banger, and I would probably just kind of wound him. And then, God, I can only imagine what a douchebag he would be in court. Okay, well, I think that's about enough. I'm just over 14 minutes here, and hopefully I can edit that down to 14 seconds. Thank you very much to Leo Martinez for letting me borrow your audio recording equipment. And thank you very much for getting me booked at that gig at Flappers about a month or two ago. Speaking of which, I will be performing there Friday, June 12th at Flappers in Burbank. I'll also be performing July 12th at the Comedy Store on the main stage. Speaking of which, thank you to Martin Harris for booking me on that gig. That's going to be my, I think, 4th time performing at the Comedy Store. 3rd time on the main stage, so I'm super excited about that. So I guess I'm doing something right. So please tell your friends to tell their friends to tell their friends to come on out. I'd appreciate it. That's Friday, June 12th at Flappers in Burbank, and July 12th at the Comedy Store on Sunset in Hollywood. I guess that is about it. share this podcast with your friends. And quick question: could you guys tell I was naked the whole time I did this?